Hello and welcome back to the channel. My name is Michael and it's that time again where I'm going to be reviewing Star Trek the original series, this time season 2. So, season 2 took me longer than season 1 to get through, and that's simply because I was, of course, working on other videos, and then there was just times where I only watch a episode in a day, because normally when it comes to this, like with season 1, I at least try to watch 3 episodes in a day because of how long the series is compared to, say, Doctor Who, which is only 13 episodes. Star Trek season 2 is 26. Season 1 was 29, and now season 3 is 24. But I still enjoyed my watch. So before I start, going through each individual episode, what were my thoughts of this season? Well, in my opinion, I think season 2 is a lot stronger of a season compared to season 1. For me, season 1 had a handful of good episodes, more mediocre to decent episodes, and a few bad ones thrown in the mix. Whereas for me, with season 2, it started off with a mixed bag of some good, some decent, to a string of really good and amazing episodes in the middle part of the season. And then towards the end, it went to shit. And one of the common themes with this season was having a planet that is similar to Earth that has developed something that already developed on Earth, giving them the excuse to do either a gangster episode, a Nazi episode, or a Rome episode, which all actually did take place in season 2. Um, but other than that, I really enjoyed my time with season 2 compared to season 1. And I look forward to doing season 3 at the end of next month. So, yeah, now it's time to quickly go through the individual episodes. Starting off with episode 1, Amok Time. I thought it was a good episode, introducing us to T'Pring, who we are, of course, have seen in season 1 of Strange New Worlds. As of recording this, episode 3 aired yesterday, so we don't know if T'Pring is going to show up again in season 2. Um, but yeah, now that I know that she's in this, I can, when I go back to watch season 1, I can start to appreciate that a little bit more, giving us more backstory on her character compared to what we only seen in this episode. Also, this episode starts, the big battle theme that is always used every time there's a fight scene in season 2. Don't get me wrong, it's a good theme, but it's way, way overused. Same with the Balance of Terror theme from season 1. It is that and this sound, this score is overused quite a bit, and it's understandably, low budget sci-fi 60s show. What more can I expect? It's just kind of gets, it's a good song, but it kind of gets repetitive every time there's a fight sequence. But yeah, Amok Time I thought was a pretty good one. I especially love the ending. Spock letting his emotions take over, thinking he killed the captain, and turns out that he's still alive. I love that smile that Leonard Nimoy gives. Um, yeah, so really enjoyed Amok Time. Next we have Who Mourns for Andoris, which is an episode that I am mixed on because it plays into the idea of all these ancient gods that the likes of the Greeks and the Egyptian worshipped, that they're aliens from another planet. And the premise of the episode is just okay. I thought it was just okay. It fall to me. Who Mourns for Adonis falls into the okay category of episodes. The next episode, The Changeling, however, is quite good. I thoroughly enjoyed it. with the whole Nomad probe thinking that Kirk is its creator. Essentially, a prelude to the motion picture with V'ger and all that. Um, there's also some really cool camera angles that they used whilst Nomad is moving. I thought, wow, this came out in '67. That that looks pretty damn good in my opinion. Um, and it is, those shots are pretty cool. Next is Mirror Mirror. Now, this is the only episode I had watched prior to my season 2 review. Because, as you know, with season 1, I'd seen quite a few episodes of season 1, but with season 2, this was the only one. So, this was a rewatch. The main reason why I sought it out originally was again because of Discovery season 1 when they entered the Mirror Universe. At that point, I hadn't seen any of the Mirror Universe episodes, so I went back and I enjoyed it. It's a great episode, not much else I can say. It's considered one of the great episodes, and it shows. What I find interesting though is the end clip with the captain talking to the person who he met the Mirror Universe counterpart to. They cut and reused that for when Captain Sisko meets Kirk in Trials and Tribulations in DS9. So thought that would be a little interesting nugget of information. Moving on to the apple. I really did not like this episode. Let me just see. Yeah, basically, it's one of the religious episodes, where they go onto this planet that they describe it like a Garden of Eden. Turns out that there's people here that haven't aged. They don't do much. They don't know much. They don't kill. They don't have kids. They don't kiss. They don't stuff like that. And they feed this creature called Vol, who's a computer, that also is in the shape of a snake's head. So it's really nailing in the religious undertones in this episode, and I just did not gel well with it. I did not like it. The next episode, however, the Doomsday Machine, I really enjoyed. It was the first time watch, but I knew of the Doomsday Machine prior to this. Again, thanks to Star Trek Online, because it did appear in one of the missions. I don't know if it still has because they're constantly changing the main story. Because originally it was like a 20 long mission, Klingon War, that got cut down, and I think they replaced it with the Borg now. I'm not 100% sure. I haven't played Star Trek Online in ages. But yeah, the Doomsday Machine is really good. It's also the first time we see another Federation ship. Of course, it being a Constitution class because of budgetary reasons, and it being the USS Constellation, captained by Commander Decker. Sorry, I just had an alarm go off. Um, so, yeah, really good episode. Thoroughly enjoyed it. However, the next episode, Cat's Paw, I fucking hated it. It was dog shit. Who wrote it, actually? Who fucking wrote it? Robert Bloch. Yeah, it's a shit episode. Not much really else to say. It's funny how with the cat that they use, they're doing all these different tricks to make it look larger than life because again, it's the '60s, little to no effects. So I'm not hating it for that. I'm hating it because it's a terrible story. Plain and simple, it's just a terrible story. Um, so now we start to get into some of the really good episodes, which is what I say. We're in the middle part of the season now with some fantastic episodes. Starting off with I Mud. Now this is a first time watch again. Hadn't seen it before, and I was pleasantly surprised. I thoroughly enjoyed it. I thought it was pretty good. I loved Harry Mudd in this episode. I loved that they used make believe to trick these androids who don't know any better, um, pretending that there's an explosion, pretending Scotty's dead, and what have you. I loved the ending. I thought the ending was very fucking funny for what they did to Harry Mudd, leaving him with nothing but his android versions of his wife. I thought that was very, very funny. Yeah, I Mudd, really great episode. The next episode, Metamorphosis, I actually enjoyed. Now, this episode is the one to introduce us to Zephyr Cochrane, who, in First Contact, which is, where we do meet him properly, a lot of stuff got retconned. Because in this episode, it's mentioned that he is born in Alpha Centauri, uh, but by time of First Contact and what have you, it's established that they haven't left Earth at that point because again, this is 60s. They're thinking 30 years into the future, and hell even the early 2010s and all that up until for First Contact is like obviously Earth had traveled at that point because that's what the people of the 60s thought, how the future was going to be, that there'd be flying cars, yada yada yada. Obviously that's not the case. But yeah, it's a very good episode. I liked it. I liked it. The following episode is Journey to Babel. Now again, hadn't seen it, but knew of it because of a Star Trek Online mission. But yeah, I really like this episode. It introduces us properly to Spock's parents. There's a murder mystery about, because one of the Tellarite delegates gets murked. Um, but it's also the first time that we do see Tellarites and Andorians on screen, the founding members of the Federation. It's the first time we've seen both, all four of them on screen at this point. Even though it's not necessarily mentioned that they are founding members yet. Um, Still a really good episode, really good mystery. Thoroughly enjoyed it. So moving on, we have Friday's Child. This is an episode I thought I wasn't gonna like. I really did. I thought I was gonna go into this and not like it because it is a Klingon episode, though it's one of those times where it's just the one Klingon because there are 3 Klingon episodes in this season, and 2 of them only deals with one Klingon officer, and they're at this point in the original series, they're still in early development of their characteristics, their backstory, and all that stuff. Because this is the second time that they've appeared, and I thought as I was watching it, the more I watched it, the more engrossed I got in this episode. I thought it was really really good. One of my actual favorites from this season. Um, so yeah. Also, McCoy has a son. Never gets mentioned again. The same with Kirk's nephew. After this one episode, they're just never mentioned again. But yeah, the next episode, The Deadly Years, is an okay-ish episode. I definitely liked it for what it was. Seeing Kirk age, Spock slowly age because of the way he is, and McCoy age. And I find it funny how the more McCoy gets older, the more southern he gets. And I love that because I love McCoy. I genuinely do love McCoy. I love DeForest Kelley, and I love Carl Urban's interpretation of McCoy. Um, but yeah, overall, just a really, really good episode. The next episode, however, Obsession, is one that I thoroughly enjoyed. We learn more about Kirk and how on the one of the ships that he was on prior to being captain of the Enterprise, that being the Farragut when he was a lieutenant, about this gaseous cloud that kills, drains the blood cells of people, and it's what was responsible for killing his former captain, and who that his son, the former captain's son, now is a ensign on his ship, and so it's a really really good episode. William Shatner was absolutely amazing in it. I thought, like I said, I thoroughly enjoyed it. It's definitely up there with one of my favorite episodes of this season. Apologies about the sudden cut there. I had to pause it to go do stuff. I'm now back. And let's continue on with this review because we are slowly approaching the end here. So, the next episode after Obsession is Wolf in the Fold. Now, again, this was an episode that I went in with very low expectations, you know. I read, because every time I move on to a new disc, I will read the blurb of the episode, so I have a vague idea of what's about to happen. And when I read the blurb for Wolf in the Fold, I thought that I wasn't gonna like it, but I actually did. It had until the ending. The ending was not that great. How things are explained was not that great. But the overall, story was good. So yeah, the mystery that essentially was behind it, did Mr. Scott murder these three women? Because, he doesn't seem to remember, and he apparently had some concussion that happened before they brought him down to this planet. And one thing that I find interesting, though, is the main villain of this story, the actor who plays him, uh, is the voice actor for Piglet in, Winnie the Pooh. So every time he's there and talking, I'm just like, dear God, Piglet's the villain. I can't take him seriously. I just can't. And the fact that it's tying back to Jack the Ripper of old, and saying that it's just this thing that possesses people that causes them to do all this stuff. I didn't like the ending. It was overall a good episode, but the ending just wasn't it. Um, Also written by Robert Bloch. But the next episode is The Trouble with Tribbles, which again, first time watch, knew of it because of course, the Deep Space Nine episode, The Trouble with Tribbles, Trials and Tribulations. So it was a very first time watch. I thoroughly enjoyed it. Wrapped up too quickly though, in my opinion. The ending felt very rushed. But again, another another episode to feature the Klingons. This time we see multiple because there's a big bar brawl, and Koloth. What I like is the fact that he in season one played Tralee, the Q, and of course later on in Deep Space Nine he does reprise his role in the more modern look of the Klingons, which I now that I know of him from this episode, I can definitely appreciate him that bit more for the times that he appeared in Deep Space Nine. So yeah, The Trouble with Tribbles, really good episode. I think the one of the last few good ones of this season. So after The Trouble with Tribbles, we have The Gamesters of Triskelion. And it's not that good, I'll be honest. I didn't think it was all that good. Basically having these three super brains of sorts betting on people's lives, taking them, having them trained to be gladiators and all that crap. I just didn't like it. It just wasn't for me. Moving on to the first of this planet has had some development that's similar to Earth. But there's a reason behind it, and that episode is a piece of the action. So this episode is essentially, it talks about how a Earth ship, the USS Horizon, had visited the planet and left behind some books about the gangsters, and because of that, these people on this planet adopted that way of life, and it's an okay episode. Um, yeah, it's an alright episode. It's out of the three that we have this season of the going to Earth-like places that have been affected because of idiot people. Um, it's the it's better than the others. Is all I can say. But moving on to the immunity syndrome, which is basically this thing, this amoeba thing. I thought it was okay. Not the greatest, not the worst, just all right. Uh, Nice to again hear of another starship, the USS Intrepid, which I believe is another Constitution class that I didn't know was one of the few Federation ships to be solely manned by Vulcans. Because I did know of ships like that existing, I just didn't think that it would be a Constitution class that would be like that. So would have liked to have seen and heard more of the Intrepid, but yeah, just the episode itself was okay. The next episode, though, A Private Little War. This is the last Klingon episode in this season, and it's again okay. There's as it's basically a carbon copy of Friday's Child. Where the Klingons are trying to have messing with this planet that's pre-warp, giving them access to they're these people that are in that I would say would be the Middle Ages, giving them access to flintlock pistols far in advance to kind of shift the balance, and then having Kirk to make the decision that in order to keep set balance, they have to train these people who he stayed with as a lieutenant, and um, you know stick with bows and arrows to then train them how to use these pistols so it keeps the balance. And it's just okay. It really is. It's all right. But moving on to Return to Tomorrow. This episode again is just okay. The Enterprise hears gets this signal. They go to this dead planet. There's three survivors in these orbs. They use them to take control of the captain, Spock, and a random lieutenant to build them android bodies. And then one of them, who's in Spock's body, shocker, is evil and doesn't want to give up Spock's body and all that stuff. It's decent. It's decent. I didn't mind it. It's not the worst of this season. We have yet to get to the worst. Uh, but it was alright. It was alright. The next episode, Patterns of the Force. I absolutely hated it. I hated it. I hated it. I hated it. Basically, the premise is the Federation sent forward a scientist to go into this pre-warp civilization to amalgamate, to see how they're developing and all that stuff. And he sees that they're at war with this other planet that are on this planet, and he has the bright idea. He's a historian. He should know this wouldn't work. Didn't stop him from fucking trying, because he turns this planet into basically Nazi Germany, and has them literally dressed head to toe in full proper Nazi gear, and it is just terrible. It is absolutely terrible. Again, not the actual worst of this season. We'll get to that. We're slowly getting to that. But Jesus Christ, I finished it. I'm like, yeah, that's an episode I'm never gonna watch again. I just did not like it. I didn't see any redeeming quality from it. So yeah, moving on to By Any Other Name. Now, originally, I had no idea what this episode was going to be about until we progressed towards near the end of this episode, and then it clicked. It was like, oh, it's that. Now I get that reference from TNG. So, By Any Other Name is about these people called the Kelvins who are from a different galaxy that have traveled. They want to, invade our galaxy essentially, and so they take the Enterprise. They turn a bunch of people to rock. One thing that I didn't expect, I should say. Sorry, I have my window open, so crows are crowing. Yeah, one thing I didn't expect was, when Kirk and the landing party beam down, there's a yeoman and there's another random red shirt. When they get turned into the rocks and one is destroyed, I thought that was going to be the red shirt guy, because that's what you expect. But no. They turned the tables and actually killed off the yeoman, which I was like, oh, I did not expect that. That's actually pretty cool. But the scene that I'm referring to that I know of and can understand the reference from now is Scotty gets one of these guys drunk, because they've been in human bodies for a while, so they don't fully understand the senses and all emotions and all that. So this remaining crew members go and try and use that against them. McCoy injects someone to increase his adrenaline. Scotty literally drinks someone under the table, which is where I get that now the reference from Relics, where Data says it's green. It's because it's a reference to this episode. And Kirk, obviously being the ladies' man that he is, gets with this woman, and Spock plays chess with the leader and gets him jealous over the relationship Kirk and this woman has. And it's okay. It's better than the last couple of episodes I've reviewed. But we've got worse to come. Next is Omega Glory, written by Gene Roddenberry. And this is the most America episode I have ever seen of any television show ever. So, basically, again, we're seeing another, Constitution class ship called the USS Exeter. And, Kirk and Spock beam aboard. They contract this disease that literally crystallizes people, because it takes away all the water and leaves just what's left in crystal form. So they have no choice but to beam down to the planet where the captain is. And it's basically an allegory for Americas versus Asian, because the Americans are portrayed as savages and all that, and they all go by the fucking Constitution of America. They literally pull out the Constitution of America and bring out a fucking American flag. I was not expecting that twist, and as I was seeing that twist, I was like, my god, this is the worst episode. And then I was proven wrong. There's two worse episodes after this. I can tell you fucking that much. Both written by, again, Gene Roddenberry. And it's no fucking wonder why after the motion picture, he had little involvement with the movies. And then he also had, after like season 1 or season 2 of TNG, he had little involvement after that. Because my god, he created Star Trek. Hooray. He can't write for shit some of the times. Some of the ideas that he has for this show is batshit bonkers. The Omega Glory is one of them. Like, fuck me. I've never watched a more pro-America fucking hate Asian people episode of a TV series in my entire life. The Omega Glory takes the cake. And that's sadly not the worst episode of the season. There is two episodes that top it. But we'll get to that, because the next episode we have is The Ultimate Computer, with the M5 computer and Richard Daystrom. It's a good episode. It's the last good episode of the season, you know. Um, Very interesting because I had heard of this episode, obviously. I heard of Richard Daystrom because in other Trek shows, you know, there's the Daystrom Institute named after Richard Daystrom. How he had that named after him after the M5 incident is beyond me. Maybe it was named after him before this episode takes place. I don't know. But I think those 60 people that he killed, plus a robotic freighter, will beg to differ. So I don't know what happened to Daystrom afterwards. I don't know what the beta canon is for that. But yeah, it was a good episode. Now on to some terrible episodes. So, again, this is another Star Trek episode, Beard and Circuses, where captains or random people go onto this planet, into a particular planet, and start to make it more Earth-like based off of its history. Like I said, we've had Nazism, we had gangsters, and now we've had ancient Rome. And it's a terrible episode. Again, I'm pretty sure, let me just check here. Yeah, written by Gene Roddenberry. It makes sense. It's a terrible episode. It's an absolute terrible, terrible episode. And again, like the Omega Glory, it literally ends, and like one of the other episodes, let me try and find it now, because I should know what it is. The apple, like the apple, it's again another religious allegory because it literally ends on them saying that, you know, oh, this planet is basically like if Rome never lost and Christianity never existed, now it's starting to happen in the 20th century of this Earth-like planet. And really, Gene Roddenberry, you felt that necessary? I'm just moving on because we have one more episode to talk about, and it's a backdoor pilot, Assignment Earth, and it is terrible. It is absolutely terrible. But at least I can understand the reference from season 2 of Picard with the whole Gary 7 thing. But it was shit. It was absolutely terrible, and it's another episode that I'm never going to return to. And that's going to wrap us up. So thank you all for watching this video. Tomorrow, I will have a different type of video at 10 a.m. GMT plus 1. So you don't want to miss that. So thank you all for watching. I hope you enjoyed. I'll see you all bright and early tomorrow morning.